Hello everyone, welcome to our weekly live product demo. My name is Barry Brasopoulos. I'm the head of customer success at Time to Reply. Now, if you and I have not yet had our one-on-one product demo where we discuss your business goals and how Time to Reply can help you achieve them, please feel free to drop your email address in the chat in the session, and I'll follow up with you a little bit later to set up a session where we can go into your reporting requirements in a bit more detail, and speak to specific features and functionality that would meet your needs. In this session, we'll be taking a brief walk through the Time to Reply platform. I'll be speaking to specific features and functionalities that our customers find a lot of value in. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat as well. I will do my best to speak to those questions as I move through the product, or just answer them directly before the end of the session. So to get started, let me share my screen and tell you a little bit more about Time to Reply. Now, as some of you may already know, Time to Reply does not ingest any email body content or attachment data. So that means that your security and privacy is always protected. The content of your emails is never shared with Time to Reply. It remains safe and secure. It's a big part of the reason why we are ISO 27001 certified for information security. We've been successfully audited by one of Google's 3 global security partners, a company called Bishop Fox, and we are GDPR compliant. Now, on screen right now is our demo environment. All the information and data you're seeing here is purely fictional. And what you're seeing is our overview report that some of you are already familiar with. Our overview report is really the heart of our most popular product, which is Time to Reply Success, which is used by the majority of our customer base. Our overview report, like all of our reports, works off of our primary reporting functionality, which is show stats for when communicating with. All right. Now, that could be show stats for my company, meaning all of your mailboxes linked to Time to Reply. But it could also be show stats for a specific team. Maybe you just want to see stats for your sales team. It could also be show stats for a specific group mailbox, maybe something like a support at or customer service at kind of mailbox. And it could be show stats for a specific individual within one of your teams. Now, our when communicating with filter follows a very similar logic, right? So let's imagine we say show stats for my company. When communicating with anybody would mean all email coming in and out of your environment, or in and out of the mailboxes that are linked to Time to Reply. My company would be internal email only. So perhaps you want to gain an understanding of how efficiently your teams are communicating with each other inside your organization. That's going to be the when communicating with my company option. Everybody else is going to be all external email. So customers, service providers, partners, vendors, and so on. But it goes further than this as well. You have the ability to segment your customer base and create customer groups within Time to Reply, so that you could look at your reply times and email volumes, for example, when dealing with your top revenue customers. Or perhaps you want to segment your customers on a geographic basis or service type. You'd be able to do that with the customer groups feature, and that would then allow you to see reporting specific to that group of customers. Now, another way in which some of our customers use this feature is to report on the reply times on emails they are receiving from their suppliers, their vendors. So for example, let's say you have a software vendor that you work with, and you have a certain service level agreement in place with them. You are able to create a customer group for that service vendor or customer in Time to Reply. And by using this very simple little switch in between these filters, you're going to be able to invert this data and actually see their reply time when they are responding to your emails. So this feature has become quite popular with some of our customers because it helps with their vendor management, helps keep their vendors honest when it comes to responding to emails that they are sending to those vendors. So let's talk now about the actual reporting that you're going to get in time to reply. First up, you're going to see your volume data. So your email conversations you can think of as a thread, right? So one conversation will have multiple emails or messages within it, just like one thread has multiple emails in it. So you get a count of your total number of conversations based on your reporting period and who you are showing stats for and communicating with. You're going to see the total number of emails sent and received within these conversations. You're also going to get a breakdown on the types of conversations that are happening within this reporting range. So the number that inbound conversations, outbound conversations, sent internally, closed, and so on. Where this starts getting really interesting and a lot more valuable for a lot of our customers is when you start looking at the conversation breakdowns and you start getting a look at the number of conversations awaiting an agent response. So this means that the most recent email in that conversation came from a customer, and the ball is now in your court to reply to that customer. So that means awaiting agent response. Awaiting customer response is similar, except that, of course, the ball is in the customer's court, and have no replies is pretty self-explanatory. Yes, we will. Just one of the questions that have come in is, will we be sharing a recording of the session? Yes, we will. So for everyone who's registered for this webinar, you will receive a recording of this session within 24 hours. Next up is our performance data. So the first thing you're going to notice here is that we've split this out into taking into account business hours and ignoring business hours. So there's a few things to unpack here. Firstly, all metrics across time to reply always take into account business hours unless we are specifically stating in that specific instance that we are ignoring business hours. As you see on screen at the moment, this specific widget over here is your reply times ignoring business hours. If you're not interested in these numbers, you can just X this out and remove this from your reporting screen. Next thing that's important to note is that you can set your business hours for your entire account, meaning all of the mailboxes linked to your account will be measured according to the same business hours. But if you have people working in different shifts, in different time zones, you are able to configure your business hours on a per mailbox basis. So you could have team members in one part of the world with business hours set according to their time zone and the number of hours they're working per day. And then you can have team members in a different part of the world, different time zone, different operating hours. You can set the business hours for them as well, so that their reply times are always calculated relative to the actual hours in the day that they are ready and available to respond to email. So looking at these performance metrics, what you're looking at is your average first reply time, which is how quickly your team members are responding to a customer conversation for the very first time. So that first reply that goes out to the customer. The overall reply time is a measure of how efficiently your team is handling the entire back and forth conversation with that customer. And so the way this is calculated is that it adds up the reply times across all of the emails in that conversation, divides it by the total number of emails in the conversation, and gives you an average number. And then average overall forward time is the average time it takes for your team to forward emails to colleagues or to a different department. Now, we split that out for two reasons. One, quite simply, a forward is a different action from a reply, and so it should be reported on separately. But two, many of our customers have a workflow or process where an email comes in from a customer, maybe to a group mailbox, so something like a support at mailbox. Those agents receiving those emails then forward those emails off to colleagues to get more information, or maybe it's a sort of second line support and they need more information in order to resolve the query. And then once they get the response back from the colleague, they reply to the customer for the first time. And so by including the overall forward time in the performance metrics, you're able to track that entire workflow from the email arriving from the customer, forwarded to a colleague, responded back to the agent, and then the first reply going back to the customer. You're also able to see these reply times sort of split by volume according to your specific reply time goals. These reply time goals can be configured on the fly from this reply, just by clicking reply time goals up at the top of the report. So you might want to set your reply time goal as 30 minutes, and you'd be able to report on what percentage of the conversations were responded to within 30 minutes versus 1 hour, 2 hours, and so on. Coming a bit further down into the overview report, now we're looking at the agent email totals breakdown table. This is where you're going to get a breakdown of the email volumes and performance on a per mailbox basis. This is going to account for both individual and group mailboxes. And so in the scenario where you have team members who are replying on behalf of a group mailbox, in other words, a customer sends an email to, for example, support@timetoreply.com. When one of the agents responds to that customer, they respond from their personal email address rather than responding from the support@ email address. In that scenario, the reply times will be attributed to the individual agent. So you'll be able, what your reporting will look similar to this, in that you'll see the volumes coming into the support mailbox, but you'll see that the reply times are attributed to the individuals who are actually responding to those customers. If you have a scenario where your team members are replying as the group mailbox, not a problem. Our system can handle that. You'll just configure that slightly differently under your group and shared mailbox mapping section in the tools area of your account. Now, what you're also going to be able to see with Time to Reply is some trends on your email volumes and traffic. So you're going to see average traffic by weekday for the reporting period that you're looking at, right down to average traffic by hour. So this is going to help you with things like capacity planning. If you need to make sure that you have enough people on shift, if you need to schedule team meetings or training sessions, you can get an understanding of when your email volumes are high and you want everyone ready and available to reply to your customers. And when those volumes are low, that's the time of day you want to be doing things like training sessions and team meetings, one-on-ones maybe, when you don't have as great a need for having all hands on deck ready to respond to customer email. And again, this is going to just break down this data again on a by day basis and include a sort of trend line on your first reply time. Your overall reply time is in there. If you have forwards, it's going to show you your overall forward time in this view as well. Now, the overview report, like all of our reports, can be set up to be delivered automatically to stakeholders across your business. So you can simply say actions, save as scheduled report. And immediately you're going to be able to specify, do you want it delivered daily, weekly, monthly? Exactly who do you want this report delivered to? You can give it a name. You can choose the day of the week, the time of day, and you can get quite granular with the filtering that you want to apply to this report when it's sent out to all of your colleagues and the relevant stakeholders across your business. And we'll talk about these filters in a bit more detail in a moment. So coming back into the reports now, one of the reports that has gained quite a bit of popularity across our customer base is the comparative report. Now, this one is particularly useful when you are managing teams and you want to be able to provide feedback into your teams, sort of on a leaderboard basis, who your top performers are, who needs some coaching, and allow for. I guess in sales teams, there's that little bit of a spirit of competition amongst sales team members. Alternatively, it's a good way to recognize and reward your top performers. And so in this view, you're going to be able to see who's handling the highest email volumes, who's delivering the fastest reply times, who's delivering the slower reply times and might need some coaching and development. I usually find that this particular view is a great launchpad for initiating conversations amongst your team members, where you give your top performers the opportunity to knowledge share and provide some tips and checks as to what they are doing to achieve better first reply times than other team members who may be a bit slower on their email. That being said, there are, of course, legitimate reasons why some team members may have a slower first reply time than others. Maybe they have, more complex queries to deal with. Maybe they have, a need to engage with different departments and different colleagues before they can go back to the customer. You would have that insight into your team, and you'd be able to apply that context when you are looking at this data. One of the tips we usually recommend when your team members are receiving more complex queries and are therefore reporting higher reply times is to implement a process where your team members are immediately acknowledging the customer's email, saying, thanks for your email. I need a bit of time to look into this. I will follow up with you within 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever the case may be. So that's going to help them on their first reply time. But the thing to note there and to keep an eye on there is the overall reply time as well. So in a scenario where you have someone trying to, trick the system and replying very, very quickly for that very first reply, and then sort of forgetting about that email after a while and not replying to that customer, that's going to reflect in their overall reply time statistics, because it's going to show you this person has a great first reply time, but a really high average overall reply time. And, that's the sort of thing to be looking into there when you're trying to understand your team performance and how they're doing on their engagement with your customers via email. Now, moving over for a moment to our conversation logs. One of the main questions customers or potential customers have when they are reviewing time to reply is, how do I make sure that my team are not missing important emails? And so the way to do that is to use this more filters section over here, because what you're able to do here is you're able to actually drill down on this data to actually get deeper insight into what's actually happening with these conversations. Are there any email conversations that need more attention or need to be prioritized because they've been waiting for too long for a response? And so in this example, what you might want to do is say, show stats for my company when communicating with everybody else, all right, so that we focus specifically on customer email. You can say, I want to see conversations that are currently awaiting an agent response, all right, as opposed to waiting a customer response or just closed and no longer needing to be dealt with. And I want to see those that have been waiting for more than a certain amount of time. So let's say 3 hours. And again, this is 3 business hours. And I mention this because if you are wanting to see email that's not been replied to for a day, you would set this to 8 or 9 hours, because again, business hours, and let's assume your business day is 8 hours. You'd set this to 8 hours. So that is 1 business day. This slider goes up to 48 hours, and that's 48 business hours as well. So that's roughly sort of 5 or 6 days, depending on your workday. So once you've set these filters, you're going to be able to see very quickly the subject line, who sent the email, who it was sent to, and some type, status, and performance data. So type would mean inbound, whether it was an inbound conversation or outbound. The thing to understand about the classification of inbound or outbound on a conversation, in other words, a thread, is that it's dependent on the very first email in that thread. So if the very first email came in from a customer, it's an inbound conversation. The very first email went out from an agent to a customer, it's an outbound conversation. An inbound or outbound conversation will have in and outbound and possibly internal messages within that conversation, but the whole conversation is classified by the very first email. You're also going to see, at least in this view, either reply times that are factored in to your average reply time calculation. Those are the gold trophies. And reply times that are not included in your stats. Now, the color of the trophy is not indicating whether it's a good or bad reply time. 38 hours is a really high reply time. So that, it's not, a gold trophy is not indicating that it's good. It's simply indicating that this is a reply time that is included in your statistics when you're looking at your reporting. Whereas the black trophy means the first reply is not included. Now, in this specific example, the first reply is not included because the first reply belongs to the customer. The way I know that is that this is an outbound conversation. So if we expand this view, what we can see here is that you've got the very first email in this thread coming from the agent out to the customer. All right. And because any conversation can only have one first reply, that first reply belongs to the customer. Therefore, it is not attributed to this agent or this team's statistics when you're looking at your average first reply time on a higher level. So that's the difference between the color coding on the trophies. So once you have this information on emails that need to be attended to because they have not been replied to for over a certain amount of time, there's a couple of ways you can handle this. Either you can download this information straight out of this conversation log screen just by hitting the download button over here. You get a spreadsheet straight out. Or again, you can have this set up as a scheduled report sent out to your team leader, team managers, the team members themselves, so that they can very quickly get a view on the emails that they need to attend to. We are right on the verge, and I'm very excited to announce this, right on the verge of launching our real-time alerts. I expect that we should have it live by next week, which will allow you to set an alert to receive a notification as soon as there's even one email that is meeting one of these reply time triggers. All right, so the way that's going to work is that you're going to be able to come into your tools area and actually configure your alert to say, when anyone in my company or any mailbox that's linked to time to reply is dealing with a particular conversation, and it's gone more than X number of hours without a reply, you can choose to count whether that's 4 hours on just the first reply or just the first email in that conversation or any email in that conversation. So again, if you were wanting to set up an alert for a really important customer, you'd probably say any email in the conversation. You'd probably drop this down to 1 hour, and you'd say notify all responsible agents. And again, you'd be able to specify, a particular customer group or even just one individual customer, so that anyone involved in that email conversation with that top priority customer will receive a notification as soon as any email in that conversation has been waiting more than 1 hour for response, and you'll receive that notification proactively. You're not going to have to wait for whatever time it is that you've scheduled a scheduled report to be delivered to you. These real-time alerts will be sent out as and when there's a need for you to respond to a customer email based on how you've configured these alerts. So you can get really granular on this. This is on my company level, but again, you could drill this down to a team level, group mailbox, even one specific individual within a team. You're going to be able to apply, one customer group, or even, configure some rule sets within your Microsoft or Gmail environment to apply labels. And when those labels are applied and ingested by our system, that's going to help these alerts trigger as well for very, very specific use cases, so that your team members can be alerted to prioritize email that needs to be attended to as soon as possible. The whole purpose of the real-time alerts is that we want to ensure that our customers never miss an important email from a customer, from one of their customers again. And so I'm really looking forward to this going live and getting a lot of your feedback on the value that it's adding to your organization. We've got just a few minutes left, so if there are any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. If you would like to set up a one-on-one demo and speak specifically to your use case, or if you have more specific questions about time to reply that were not covered in this session, drop your email in the chat as well, and we'll get in touch with you to set that up, and we can discuss your needs and perhaps talk through the time to reply products to see which one would be the best fit for your reporting goals. A couple of more reports I'm going to touch on before we wrap up and give you a chance to ask any questions that you might have is our SLA report. SLA report works really well for delivering just high-level reporting to stakeholders across your business, so senior management, maybe executives. This is the kind of report that's going to give you just a very quick snapshot view on whether your email volumes have increased or decreased compared to your previous reporting period, as well as whether you've passed or failed your reply time goals. And again, you'll see all of the filter options are available in the SLA report as well. The SLA report is also available to be scheduled and sent out on a weekly or monthly basis. And so here you might say something like, my company communicating with everybody else, I'm setting a first reply time goal of 4 hours and an overall reply time goal of 6 hours. So generate. First thing that's going to show me is whether my volumes have increased or decreased compared to the previous reporting period. So in this case, the period is 1 month. So the previous period is 1 month. If this reporting period was 1 week, the previous period would be 1 week, and so on. And then it's also going to tell you at a glance whether you've passed or failed your reply time goals based on whatever you've configured in the report. And it's also going to give you a breakdown per mailbox as well. So these would be mailboxes linked to your time to reply account. And again, if you were filtering this down to just one team, so you just wanted an SLA report for your sales team, the mailboxes listed would just be your sales team member mailboxes in this report. Finally, our trend report. Now, while most of the reports in time to reply are going to give you a 90-day reporting window, we do store up to 2 years of rolling data in time to reply. The trend report is going to give you up to 12 months of trend, high-level trend data on a month-to-month basis. And so for new customers, the trend report is not going to be, I think, that valuable for the first couple of months, but certainly when you get to your sort of first 3 months, 6 months into using time to reply, it's going to be valuable to use this report to get a sense of how your email volumes are trending over time. So emails received and sent, new emails sent. You're going to get a view on your reply times and how those are trending over time. Are they increasing, decreasing, and so on? If you have sales teams, you'd be wanting to look at your time to reply ratio. We can discuss that some more if you'd like to. If you have sales teams and you're looking to use time to reply specifically for a sales team, feel free to get in touch and we can discuss our time to reply ratio report in a lot more detail because it's particularly useful for managing sales teams' performance on dealing with inbound sales queries. So this is our trend report, high-level view on a month-to-month basis, helps you get an understanding of how your teams are tracking, how your email volumes are tracking, and whether your numbers are moving in the right direction. That is it for this session. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn for more updates. Subscribe to our newsletter. That's where we push our announcements of new features we're rolling out or features that are coming soon and any other important information that you might need to know. One more thing to mention before we wrap up, we have extended our Black Friday offer. That's 40% off for your first 6 months on time to reply. And that's available until the 10th of December. So if you're thinking about signing up to time to reply, get in touch. We will share our coupon code with you on that Black Friday deal, and we can get you onboarded and up and running before the end of the year so that you are ready to go come Q1 2021. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.